Hi, and welcome to 00Gluten. This is a podcast done in Spain. Usually it's done in Spanish or Catalan, but this episode will be in English, so the public will be more all over the world. In this program, we're going to interview someone from New Jersey, celiac, and with other problems with food. I hope you will like it. If you speak Spanish or Catalan, you can go and listen to the previous episodes. Probably we'll do more episodes in English if it's successful. So, hello, Sophia Kolodzinski. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for accepting this call from Spain. You are in New Jersey, right?
Yeah, right outside Manhattan.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Who are you? Can you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and why do you think we are calling you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm 20 years old. I go to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I have had celiac since I was 18 months old. So I have a lot of experience with living gluten-free and how to live a gluten-free lifestyle. And I also help run a gluten-free food business with my mom. It's called Sophia's Delight, and it's about non-GMO flours and zero sugar and protein and living a healthier, not just gluten-free lifestyle, but overall lifestyle. So this podcast and this blog, it dovetails a lot with what I am interested in for pursuing a healthy life.
Yes, excellent. We already talked with your mom. Some people might have listened to her already in another program. With her, we talk in Spanish. With you, we do it in English. So maybe we're going to overlap some of the information, but maybe it's also interesting to see how you explain it and your vision different from your mom, because you are the celiac. She's the mother of a celiac girl.
Yeah.
Now you. Okay.
Of course.
So can you explain us how old were you when you were detected that you couldn't eat gluten and you had also other allergics also?
Yeah, so I got celiac or was diagnosed with celiac when I was 18 months old, so about a year and a half. And I'm 20 now, so essentially almost 20 years with celiac disease. I was one of the few people that was first diagnosed with it in my area, so really in the United States. And I also am very allergic to tree nuts. I have an anaphylactic allergy, which means that within 2 to 3 minutes, I suffer and a scratchy throat, trouble breathing, and things like that, just to nuts like cashews, almonds, hazelnuts, pistachios. So both of those two allergies combined create a very restraining diet.
Okay. How was your childhood when you were a little girl at school? You had to be very careful with those things. How was the situation there at the United States?
Yeah. So as I was growing up, there really wasn't a lot of gluten-free options for me. A lot of it, like couldn't eat gluten. There was no gluten-free pizza. There were no gluten-free bagels, no gluten-free pasta. That really didn't exist. So growing up, everything that I ate was naturally gluten-free. So rice, corn, lentils, things like that. And I still eat like that today. I don't really eat a lot of the processed gluten-free foods, but there wasn't a lot of options as I was growing up. And that has changed as I've gotten older. The gluten-free market has exploded with a lot of really great products, and they're slowly getting better over time. So it's gotten a lot better, but when I was younger, it was really hard.
Very well. So you are very experienced with all those things, and now you have a completely normal life, I understand, very healthy food.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So when you were diagnosed like that at home, probably your parents had to start cooking carefully for you with all those things.
Well, of course, because there wasn't a lot of gluten-free products to choose from as I was growing up, a lot of things they made for me were just rice, eggs, fish, meat, things like that that didn't contain gluten in them naturally. So that was the lifestyle that I led. And over time, I was introduced to gluten-free pasta made with corn or with rice, or quinoa even. And then that became a staple in my diet for sure. A lot of different cereals that were made with rice, those were also introduced to my diet. So they had to start cooking more carefully in terms of what was really healthy for me. But there wasn't a lot of cross-contamination in my house as I grew up, which was great.
Okay, very well. And have you seen differences between you and your friends when you were a teenager, when you were growing up? You were growing the same speed as your friends, or were you smaller?
No.
Any difference on that?
Yeah, I'm much more mature when it comes to food. So I constantly have to tell waiters, oh, I'm allergic to this and this. Does this contain this? I have to read every single ingredient list on every single product because I need to make sure that it doesn't contain gluten or wheat or nuts. And I also need to make sure that cross-contamination isn't an issue, which is huge in a lot of processed foods. So that is one thing that I've gotten a lot better at that my friends don't really do. My friends can kind of just order whatever they want and that's it, but I don't really have that luxury. And even now, on a more serious note, when we're all going abroad, so for our college semesters abroad, we're all going to different places around the world, which is so exciting. But because they don't have food allergies, they don't need to think about, oh, which doctor should I see, or which doctor should be on call, or which hospital is the best hospital in case something happens. So that just requires a whole new level of maturity that my friends don't need to deal with because they don't have the same severity of allergy that I do.
Yeah. And Sophia, have you ever had problems with cross-contamination?
Yeah, not really with cross-contamination, just with nuts specifically. Let's say a chocolate has traces of nuts in it. I've been susceptible to that before. I've had to inject my EpiPen as a result. Same thing with a granola bar that was supposed to not have nuts in it, but it did have traces of nuts. So all of those things, I've had to give myself an EpiPen twice. Yeah.
Okay, hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Let's hope not.
So you have seen appearing more and more gluten-free products, probably also more and more restaurants near where you live or your life. How is the price of all those products? I think they are more expensive. It's like here in Spain that they are more expensive gluten-free products.
Yeah, it's astronomical. At least 25% more expensive to eat gluten-free than anything else. So. And you walk into any sandwich shop and they have gluten-free bread, they charge you an extra $3 or $4 to put it on gluten-free bread because they're not making that bread in-house. They're importing it from other people. So because they're doing that, they have to raise the price in order for their margins to work, which is just really terrible because it means that you're basically being penalized for having an allergy. So even though there is a plethora of new restaurants and so many different options to choose from, sometimes you do literally have to pay for it, and pay more. So that's unfortunate, but I would rather pay a little bit more for it knowing that it exists than not having that option at all.
Exactly. Okay, hopefully this will change and be more equal for us that we have this disease than from the other people. Your mom, has the business Sophia's Delight. You are Sophia, so there is Sophia Delight's food. How old were you when this started, and how this happened? Can you explain that?
Yeah, please? So my mom calls it kind of what is the exact terminology she uses? Something like 20 years in the making, because it's from when I developed celiac until now. And really what that means is, as I was growing up, there was nowhere for me to get food on the go to take with me while I was going from activity to activity. So over time, she said, okay, we need to come up with something that Sophia can take with her all the time to wherever she needs to go. And it doesn't need to be heated up. It doesn't need to be eaten with a fork or a spoon. She can hold it in her hands and that's it. And so we developed these gluten-free savory tarts about 1.5 years ago. And the recipe has non-GMO whole grain flours. It has 0 sugar. It has all the good fats. It's made with 30% of your daily value of protein. And it really just comes from the heart. It's made with love and it's because of me. So it's been really great for us to have that product sold in Citibank, Goldman Sachs, PricewaterhouseCoopers. These are different banks all across Manhattan and across the United States. It's really great that we can do this and that we can distribute it and that the proof of concept exists that gluten-free grab-and-go as a gourmet food option is working. So it's really wonderful. It's great for gluten-free.
Very well, excellent. We're going to add the link to the website next to the program so people can enter and have a look to it. You also, I think several applications for mobiles where you can look for restaurants and places where to go out gluten-free in the US. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so the best one by far is G-Free NYC. You can definitely put that app at the bottom of this podcast also. It's G and then free and then New York City, or just NYC is the acronym. Mm-hmm. It's a red app. It's great. I use it all the time. It continuously updates, so it's really, really good about telling you where things are, and it customizes by price, by cuisine, by location. So that for New York is awesome. But in addition, the internet is really just fantastic. Like you can look up anything, just gluten-free Italian, gluten-free Chinese, New York City, or any town, and it tells you gluten-free options. And even the most basic restaurants, the most basic menus have a gluten-free all-natural option or offer something. So it's gotten so much better on the internet and on the App Store for gluten-free travelers.
Which recommendations do you give to travelers from Europe that they go to New York if they have to eat celiac?
Yeah, so there's some really great, so depending obviously on where you're staying, I would recommend going anywhere. For pizza, I would go to Ruby Rosa, I'd go to Mediterrano, I would go, there are other great ones. What are a couple of other good ones? Those are definitely my top two. Pizza Me, that's a good one. Those are all pretty decent. And then for like desserts, I would go to Rice to Riches on Spring Street in Manhattan. It's naturally gluten-free. It's kind of like, it's a roast con leche, but it's all different flavors. So it's amazing. Sprinkles Cupcakes. They have really, really good gluten-free chocolate chip cookies and gluten-free cupcakes. And then there are a lot of really great 100% gluten-free bakeries. So Erin McKenna's bakery is really, really good. By the Way Bakery, which is Jennifer Esposito's bakery. It's fantastic. I think it's called Mozzarelli's is a good one. And what's really great. Another really good one for Mediterranean style food is called The Little Beat. That one's 100% gluten-free. And so is Senza Gluten. Those are all great, really, really great restaurants. A great resource also, if you want to just learn more about gluten-free in Manhattan, is the Celiac Disease Center at Columbia University. I work with them pretty closely. I used to run fundraisers for them all the time. They have really, really wonderful resources on their website for where to eat, how to eat, what it means to be celiac, all of that. It's really wonderful. I would highly recommend that. And if anyone is ever traveling to New York and wants a second opinion about their celiac, wants to learn a little bit more, I would recommend making an appointment, and they're really, really fabulous.
Excellent. So we will link that as well next to the program. When you want to buy just food to cook at home or where you are living, you have easily findable normal shops. So you have to go to special.
Places? For sure. So Whole Foods, I don't think you have it in Europe, but Whole Foods in the United States is probably the best food store for gluten-free options. They have aisles, just aisle after aisle after aisle of gluten-free. And stores in the United States have gotten fantastic at differentiating between gluten-free and not gluten-free. They signpost, they tell you the ingredients, they tell you what's all natural, what's organic. And that's not just Whole Foods, that's Fairway in New York. And then if you come out to Long Island or New Jersey or Connecticut, King Supermarkets, Balducci, ShopRite, Stop and Shop, all of those are really, really great.
Okay, so we have a lot of options if you go to New York, US, and there's going to be no problem at all if you want to eat gluten-free over there.
Yeah, so easy.
Okay, what about smaller cities in the US? Is the same or is a bit more difficult?
So I go to school in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is a pretty small, it's a pretty small city, but it's a bustling city. It's a college town, and it's right outside Detroit, which is the capital of Michigan and also a pretty big city. Detroit's not the capital of Michigan. It's just another really big city in Michigan. I think East Lansing is the capital. But also in East Lansing is another school, Michigan State. And Michigan State University has a lot of great gluten-free options also. So both East Lansing is a small city, Ann Arbor is a small city, and Detroit's a much bigger city, but all of them have really great gluten-free options. And my brother's going to school in right outside Indianapolis, Indiana, and in Bloomington. And he told me that there are a lot of really good gluten-free restaurants as well. So I think it's just slowly getting better all across the country. People are becoming much more conscious about what being gluten-free means. And what really needs to be next is nuts for me. But for gluten, it's really perfect. Like I have not had a problem with gluten contamination ever in this country. Never.
Perfect. And if someone travels there with Spanish, can you ask gluten-free options, or you need to speak in English? How is it?
Yes. So what's really nice and what I've noticed all across, like when I've traveled to, is celiac everybody kind of understands that root word and everybody knows what that means. Mm-hmm. So if you don't speak Spanish, if you don't speak English or you don't speak Spanish, but you say celiac in some way, everybody knows what celiac is. Okay. Everybody knows that's an allergy to gluten and to wheat, and they can help you that way. So even knowing that basic word or being able to say, I am allergic to gluten, I have celiac, those basic words go a really long way. You don't need to explain anything in this country. It's just understood.
Very well, excellent. I know also you have traveled to other destinations. Your dad is from Argentina. You have been in Europe and in Israel.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about Argentina first a little bit? How is that?
Yeah, so because I do understand Spanish and like my family does speak Spanish, I've never really had a problem there either because they also understand what I'm saying because I speak the language. But because the culture and the food itself is very much naturally gluten-free, it's very much like steak, potatoes, rice, that kind of thing. It's naturally gluten-free, so I don't tend to have a problem. As for desserts and things of that nature, dulce de leches are gluten-free. Arroz con leches are all gluten-free. So I've never had a problem with that. As for pastries and things of that nature, though, I wouldn't say there are not a lot of gluten-free items. Like when I travel, I stick to what is naturally gluten-free. I never really go and try something that they make gluten-free for me because I don't trust the cross-contamination. It's very difficult in other countries to gauge how good they are at keeping things separate. Whereas in the United States, there are really, really strict laws that the Food and Drug Administration approves and all of that. So I don't tend to eat anything that isn't naturally gluten-free. And I was just in Paris. I went to Israel in April and I was in Hong Kong in March. And I just strictly ate naturally gluten-free things.
Okay. And you have to explain about cross-contamination to the waiters or to the cooks or...
Yeah, so I have to say, listen, I'm really allergic to it. I don't do it for gluten. I really don't. I only really do it for nuts because that's what really can kill me. And so I very often say, listen, I'm very allergic to nuts. In whatever language I can try and work with them just to make them understand. I'm very allergic to nuts like almonds, cashews, pistachios. I explain the whole list of nuts that I could have a reaction to. And I say, are they in your kitchen? Or are they present in your kitchen? Can you make me this dish knowing that no nuts will be near it, that there will not be any cross contamination? And if they say no, then I go to another place entirely because I'm not going to risk anything if they can't keep their kitchen clean in and of itself. If they can't do that, then they're not an establishment I should eat at because it's scary. But the same goes for anybody with a gluten allergy that's severely intolerant. If it can kill them or can land them into hospital or can give them a stomach ache, that's what they should be asking the waiters and the waitresses. Or what they can do, which I've done in a lot of different places, is I've brought an allergy food card. So I've translated from English so let's go with Israel. I've translated from English to Hebrew exactly what I'm allergic to and exactly what nuts there are. And then I give that allergy card to the waiter or the waitress. They bring that allergy card into the kitchen and then the chef sees it. Okay. So that's a really great way to do it. Also, I also did it when I was in China, I did it in Mandarin. So it definitely works. And it's definitely it's been successful for me.
Could you try many different things in China or was it more difficult?
So a lot of what China has is rice-based. So it was not that hard. What was hard, though, was fried foods. So like dumplings, you can't go near them because they're fried. They're fried in oils that are cross-contaminated, or dumplings that aren't in rice but are in wheat. That's not good. Soy sauce, I can't do. You can't do that if you're gluten-free. So a lot of things are marinated in soy. So, I mean, if you stick with like really basic rice dishes and like non-marinated chicken and all that stuff, you're fine. But I personally stuck to like relatively Americanized foods and restaurants because I just didn't want to deal with having to speak Chinese and go through all of that and be nervous about it.
Okay, very well. You have explained us a lot of things already. I don't know if you want to give a final recommendation for travelers, either to the United States or somewhere else. Yeah,
no, I mean, What I would really say, and not just about traveling, but just about living with celiac in general, is don't feel hindered by your condition. It's the worst thing in the world to think that you can't do something because you're afraid. And that applies 100% to food, especially in the United States. There are so many options for gluten-free, for allergen-free. I was just at this gluten-free allergy food fest in Brooklyn yesterday. They do it all over the country, in Indianapolis as well. There's so many other places that they do it. And there are probably 40 or 50 different vendors yesterday that make gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, nut-free, every single allergen-free of products. And it's amazing, and it's incredible to see this explosion of incredible foods on the market that's in this country. So for travelers coming here, I would actually say now is the best time to come. And as for traveling overseas, stick to the cultures, especially in Europe. Stick to what the culture has to offer. So in Spain, while there are some things that do have gluten, and there is cross-contamination, lots of different tapas is fine. Paella is always fine. It's a rice-based dish. Like, that's what I eat all the time. And when I was in France, a lot of stuff it was all beef, and it was all potato and all rice, and all of that stuff worked really, really well for me. And those are staples of basically everyone's diet, as long as you're not a vegetarian. If you're a vegetarian, then it's a little bit more difficult to be both gluten-free and a vegetarian. But to get the lean meats and the proteins and the dairy from beef, I would strongly recommend doing that all across the world. So I would say just don't feel hindered by food when you travel.
Very well. Thank you for your optimism and being very positive about all this. This will help a lot other people like us that we have this problem.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't know if you are coming to Spain soon, anytime.
Yeah, so I'm studying abroad in January. I'm going to be in Madrid from January to May. So if any of your viewers are in Madrid and want to tell me some good places to go, let me know. And I'm really excited to see all the gluten-free that Spain has. I've already been doing a lot of research, and Madrid seems to be a hub for some gluten-free items too. So that's really exciting. And, we'll see what happens. But I'm so excited to be in Spain really, really soon.
Excellent. What are you going to study in Madrid?
So I'm studying political science and communications and business.
So maybe in a year or so we can interview you in Spanish.
Yeah, maybe. It'll be really a lot harder, but we'll see. Yeah, for sure.
Well, in a year probably you can learn it quick if you have been listening to Spanish.
I understand it so well. I just can't speak.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Say also hi to your mom.
I will. Thank you.
And we'll talk to you next year. We are in contact with email or whatever. If you need, you let us know.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. The explosion of gluten-free products over the last 5 to 6 years is unbelievable. I would give where you live and where you are that much time. And maybe even more, given that you're honestly a little bit more isolated than New York is. And it's hard to say that, I mean, when I really think about it though, I was in Italy in 2012 and they were giving people if you're celiac in Italy and you're a citizen of Italy, you get a stipend to go and buy gluten-free food because gluten-free food is so much more expensive. Mm-hmm. That's really fantastic. That was already happening in 2012. So do I think that it was slow and steady 10 years ago? Yeah, but since then, this massive eruption of gluten-free products on the market due to current trends and current diet fads, there's no reason why you wouldn't be right at the tipping point or on the cusp of that as well. And it obviously varies based on your financial situation, but so much of this can be shipped internationally. Some of these amazing products that are made in dedicated gluten-free facilities, dedicated tree nut-free, soy-free, dairy-free, you name it, they can do it with no allergens. So, I mean, I think that's also something to keep in mind, is that even if it's not at your doorstep, it can be sent to you. And that's also huge because that also wasn't available 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, in Spain, everything is very expensive, and most of the people has no help for that for the products. In Italy, your mom explained us that yes, everything is the same price as normal wheat, for example.
I don't go out of my way to find gluten-free foods, and that's just because I've grown up in a thinking, okay, this is all the stuff that I can actually eat. So I'm not going to go out of my way to look for the substitute because I've never had the original, exactly. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's healthier, it's cheaper, and it's best for us, yes.
This whole introduction of gluten-free foods into the market is already expanding internationally. Even today, my mom and I are going to a Brooklyn allergy food festival in Brooklyn, New York, and they have 40 or 50 different gluten-free, allergen-free vendors. And we're going to go sample and taste test and talk about Sophia's Delight with retailers. And so that just goes to show that so many people care about this, and that so many people are invested in living a healthier, gluten-free, allergen-free lifestyle. So don't feel like you can't reach the potential that you thought you could as a person because gluten is in the way. And that's what I would like to extend to all of your viewers for sure.